Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacalyn at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV. And hello to our friends listening on Business Talk Radio. I am Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is The Wise Ones. And joining me on this platform, it's so appropriately named for this program, a man who is incredibly wise, he is incredibly accomplished, and he is also a very dear friend. Let's welcome to the program Mr. Red O'Loughlin. Hi, Red.
Hey, Dr. Jacalyn, good to be with you again.
Nice to see you as well. We actually met earlier today. We both looked a little bit different, didn't we?
Yeah, but that was a working meeting.
Definitely. So, Red, I'm just so excited about the guest that we have backstage and hearing her story and help supporting her work. But before we bring her out, I want to spotlight you and have you share with our audience a little bit about your background. Not only are you a co-host here on USA Global TV, you're also one of our expert talking heads, and you really provide a ton of relevant information about longevity. So much so, I was just talking to my sister about it last night. And you're also on our team of elevated listeners. But before USA Global TV, Red had accomplished a whole slew of things, including his degrees and certifications, his service in the military. So do tell us all about it, Red.
Well, as briefly as I can, my first love was chemistry long before I met my wife. I said I do to the Navy on a Sunday afternoon. The following Wednesday, I said I do to my wife. However, the Navy only got 31 and a half years of my time. My wife this year will be 54 years in July. But chemistry was my first love, and I didn't get a chance to practice it because I got an invitation to Vietnam. Well, nowadays I have 6 Saturdays and a Sunday every week, and I have a chance to do what I love to do. And one of those things is I really and truly love to research the human body at the cellular level, looking for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat a symptom and you'll always treat symptoms. And so as part of my daily life, I research the human body, and whether it happens to be with cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, COVID, there's a number of things that if you start looking and, okay, this thing causes that, that one causes that. Well, if you do this, you can stop that. It's in the health industry, we are always correcting things. We're not preventing things because our awareness, our knowledge, it just isn't there. So I write almost on a daily, in fact, I do write it on a daily basis, but I almost write and publish articles on a daily basis. I think I just published my 950th article, original content article on LinkedIn this past week. But I put out a lot of information. I speak about it quite often. And then the other thing I love to do, and that's one of the things I'm doing with Dr. Jacalyn, is I publish books most of the time for brand new authors. And our guest today is going to go a little bit more into that area too, because she has some very similar things that she does. But I publish books, and all I do is publish. I don't get involved in a lot of the preliminary and the post activities. And so my services are a little unique in that area. But that's what I do. In the Navy, I was an aviator. I flew for 16 years, visited 61 countries. And nowadays I'm living in South Texas and just enjoying life.
Thank you so much, Red. You're very humble, and you're just, you have such a huge heart. When I think about how long you've been married to your wife, that is incredible. I mean, that's a whole other show that we have to talk about. What are the secrets to being married that long? Because I only made it 6 years. But anyway, thank you so much for sharing yourself and being here on this platform. And thank you to your beautiful wife for letting her, letting you be part of this. I know you put a lot of time into this and also helping me with my books, my second one coming out. And I really am very grateful to you. So thanks again.
You're most welcome. I'm honored to be here.
Please do introduce our guest for today.
Several years ago, I ran across Rox Burkey, and she actually interviewed me as an author for an indie author program, and we've connected back and forth a few times. We belong to in and out on different networking meetings and things, and over time we've become more closely knowing what each other does. She's an author, many more books than I've written. She's also a publisher. She has a background similar to what mine was when I was working way back when. Uh, a slight nuance different, but very similar. And so as I'm learning more about her, I'm finding out that, hey, she has some really good creds in many different areas. But the area that I know that she's really proud of is writing and helping authors. So Roxanne Burkey, Rox, please join us.
Welcome to the show, Rox.
Oh my gosh, Dr. Jacalyn, Red, what an honor to be part of this group. It's amazing. And Red, thank you for the introduction.
You're most welcome.
Well, we're thrilled to have you here. And isn't this beautiful, this background that we have? I feel like we're all just communing with nature and sharing our stories.
Exactly. I thought we were in a boat, maybe, just kind of cruising along.
A little Piro boat.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. As authors, we can sure use our imagination, right?
I think that's probably our biggest trait. Yep.
Roxy, how many books have you and Charles written together?
So we've actually written 12 novels at this point, one novella, and we recently published a total of 8 short stories.
Okay. Now you call novella, that's the Out of Poland, I think, is the novella, isn't it? That was the most recent one.
Exactly.
How do you classify the difference between a novel and a novella? Obviously, it's shorter, but what's your understanding of the difference?
My understanding for a novella is that you need to be around 20 to 30,000 words, whereas the novels that we do are usually in excess of 102,000 words. That's kind of the breaking point that we go by. Google, you can get different volumes.
I was working with a client not long ago. We started out over 200,000 words. And by the time we finally got it down, it was not quite half of what it was, but it was a chore and a half. So I understand when you say 100,000 words, what you're talking about. But the name of your company is Ichabod Press. Is that right?
It is Ichabod Press. Exactly.
And what is Ichabod? How did the name come about?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
And what do you do?
So Ichabod Press came about specifically because of one of our primary characters within the Enigma series. So Ichabod is actually a acronym name for our supercomputer that evolves through each book in the series. So Ichabod starts out being pretty basic, but obviously very adept at computing programs and the like. But in the last book, he's totally AI enabled, machine learning competent, and speaks very quickly in multiple languages. So that's how it came about. We wanted to have fun with it. We consider ourselves a small press, and so we open our pressing for some specific authors, and of course the whole series.
Now the Enigma series, you classify that, I believe, as a techno thriller, intrigue, action, romance, technology, those travel, a lot of things in there. Where do you all get the experience at? Is this something you've actually done, or are these things just because of your readings and you incorporate things and use your imagination?
Red, that's a great question. It's kind of a mix. So professionally, my co-author, Charles Brakefield, and I are technologists. And so we have worked for different technology companies, a lot of them on the bleeding edge of technology, things that the consumers don't receive for a couple of years were things that we were exposed to very early on. When you work in the technology industry and you're trying to stay ahead of the competition, you see a lot of different things. So in doing that, we also were able to individually travel to a lot of places around the world. Not as many countries as you, Red, but they're on my bucket list. But it allowed us to travel to different places. And so my co-author and I decided that we wanted to stop technical writing, which we were doing for the organizations we worked for, and go into, thrillers, techno thrillers. And the reason that we kind of made that happen was because I reminded Charles, in thriller books, we can kill people.
And you called it the Enigma series. Enigma came out as a coding machine during World War II from Germany through Poland, etc. Is that part of the evolution or genesis of the Enigma series?
So, Red, it certainly is, and I'm glad that you're on top of history. So the Enigma machine was key in the World War II conflict. And part of the reason it was so key was because Britain got their hands upon a copy of the Enigma machine, and they broke the code. And at a very specific tipping point in the war, they leveraged that information on the German strategy to, in fact, end the war. Well, we decided that our R group, which are the cyber good guys in our series, took a copy of that Enigma machine and escaped and formed a business, formed their R group to right the wrongs of the world. Though the books are all in the contemporary now times, they do have a certain moral foundation that the group learned because of trying to overcome Nazis, overcome that whole ideology. Mm-hmm. So that's how we decided that.
Are you also familiar with the cryptology solution part of the Pacific battle that took place there at Ford Island in Honolulu? Because that's it's a similar story to the Enigma, but basically headed up by a very small group of people right there at Pearl Harbor. It's an amazing analogy between the two.
And I had heard that story, Red. Yep, I actually didn't learn about that story until after we had several books in the series published. But
okay, so the Enigma series kind of grew from World War II, and it's contemporary today. Why don't you just kind of give us a little bit of hint of the characters and what's going on? Because the Out of Poland is the novella, but some of the other ones have been developed, each one on top of each other. So could you just give us a little bit of oversight in what your book writing's about and the characters and the plots and things like that?
Sure. Thanks, Red. So actually the novella for Out of Poland, we consider the prologue, even though we just released it in 2021. It's the prologue to the series, and it helps build the foundation of the Enigma machine within the series itself. But the series, starting with the Enigma Factor, actually takes the cyber good guys versus cyber thugs. And we have a core group of good guys. Jacob Michaels, Petra Wachowski, there's Wolfgang, there's Furtick. There's several characters that come in and out of the series that are all good guys and are interrelated because the original three men who founded the R group with the escape from Poland actually formed this team, and their children and their descendants became part of the crime fighters. So each book in this series has a core technology foundation. And so the first one, as an example, the Enigma Factor, the focus is on identity theft, which I'm sure everyone in the audience can relate to identity theft in today's times. And then we take another element of technology into each of the series. And if you get to book 11, for example, the Enigma Beyond, it's all about artificial intelligence and artificial intelligence wars. And then, of course, the Enigma Threat, which is the latest release in the series, brings in the next generation and how the parents of the R group are teaching their children to combat the cyber thugs in the world. And so it's really the next generation, and it has a very, very strong, empowered woman lead character called Gracie Radowski, who is just stellar in that particular book.
Obviously, with the technology, you've done a lot of writing that's nonfiction. How did you make the transition into this fiction world that you're in now?
It's really been very difficult because the writing is different. I wrote technical white papers and technical manuals and, the kind that put you to sleep in moments. However, fiction is a little different. It's something where you want to grab people, you want to keep them turning the pages and keep them excited. And so taking them places and creating character relationships was something we had to learn. Because of that, we actually have been in the process, even though the 12 books have been out now for some time, we're going back to each one of the series and actually improving them. And we're up to book 6 will be redone this particular year. So trying to make them better, trying to make them stronger. And as authors, I think we all grow. We all change. And the relevancy of thrillers and technology for today's readers is a little different than when they were originally created.
Yeah. I'm reading a book right now called 1491, how the Western Hemisphere was operating prior to Columbus. And even though it's kind of a textbook, it's story-like, but I'm amazed at how he introduces certain, and I pay attention to his introduction of people, places, things, because he does a marvelous job, and it's almost as if it's fiction. I know it's not, but his nonfiction writing is very captive, and so if you have that ability to recognize it, obviously you get a little bit more advantage as you're delving further and further into the fiction world. Does the Enigma series have an end, or are we going to have 20 books in the next 5 years, or what's your future look like?
It's funny you asked that, Red, because when we initially released the series, my co-author Charles said, well, we'll write a trilogy. And I went, okay, technology is the foundation of this series. Tell me when technology will stop changing and we'll stop writing books in the series. So there's always something new. There is always a new vector. We've used ransomware before, but ransomware and hacking has gone to a whole new level. So it's an important way of keeping people interested and keeping people informed. So I don't have an ending. I can't tell you how many.
Okay.
Rox, sorry, I have a quick question to ask. My
Sure.
question is, you've done a ton of research on topics that are really relevant and pertinent to all of us. And I'm wondering, based on what you've researched and what you've written, how has that impacted your own life outside of being an author or researcher?
So, from a professional perspective, Dr. Jacalyn, I'm a technologist. I work full time. I help people specifically to improve customer experiences. And customer experiences through technology as well as through improved processes is kind of my focus. And so I'm exposed to this just from my work. And to be honest with you, there's a few characters that are in the stories that have come from work, and they don't always continue to the next story. Just saying.
I love that when I read about your background and the fact that you are in technology and that your focus is the customer experience. And my background is kind of similar. So I just thought it's kind of interesting because we take what we observe in our own life and then we can share that through music or performing arts or through the written word. So I think that's terrific.
I think you're right, Dr. Jacalyn. I think it also lends the realism to it. I've had people say things like, oh, that can't possibly be true. And, not a month later, a headline will appear in the paper that is very, very similar. It's almost prophetic. But it's just the way we go.
You're just so prescient.
I don't know about that, but we're observers. When you get to be over the age of 30 something, you're a little bit more observant of the world around you, and it's not so much what you can take, but more what you can give, I think.
Spot on.
Your website has an area in there for blogs. You've been blogging, it seemed like to me, quite a bit during the last year. You're almost in double digits this year, at least from what I remember seeing recently. And Tell us a little bit about what you blog about and how you really end up in that particular niche, because it is a niche.
So there's actually 2 or 3 different focuses for the blogging, and on my main website, roxburkey.com, I primarily blog about book reviews, and because I do an enormous amount of reading and listening to books during the year, it's my relaxation, and I'm a pretty fast reader or listener. And so I do have that focus, but then I also do guest interviews. Sometimes the guest interviews are authors that I've read their books, and I'm so fascinated with their books that I want to have my readers get a little more insight to that specific author. And I've been very lucky to have some amazing authors contribute to my blog, and we have some great conversations. And then I have another area where I have just featured guests. So recently I did a featured guest article with TJ Mackey, who runs Indie Tale magazine, who is a huge advocate of indie authors. And, that was a lot of fun to learn some different things. And I tend not to use standard questions with any of those interviews, just because I want to probe. I want to learn a little bit more, and I want to share that. Then there's also the blog portion of segments of the books and why certain segments were written, and some insights to them that we do as well. So those are shared.
I've noticed that you have quite a number of awards in your authoring and publishing background. Is there any that you're really, really fond of telling people about?
I try really hard to keep my head going through the doorway without bumping it. And so awards are wonderful. And I've always been very honored to get any award, whether it's in my professional career or in the writing career. Pencraft that I earned last year as a #1 award, that was over the top, mind blowing that we achieved that award. We've received an Audible award for the best narrator, and a couple of times actually. And the narrator of our series is Derek Scholes. And so that's been amazing. I'm still kind of hoping for, we have a #1 Amazon seller award. We have that on a couple of the books, but I want to be USA Today, New York Times. Then I think I would be a little bit more over the top, but I just don't, it's always been in a professional career. You could, no matter what you do, your boss is always saying, "Oh, that was nice, and congratulations. So what are you going to do for me today?" And so I can't get too complacent, I think would be the word I would use. I don't want to be complacent.
Techno thrillers is a very large genre out there in the world to become USA or New York Times, because there are some really talented people out there with name recognition and dozen or more books, etc. So that's a pretty tough field to crack into.
It is. And so hopefully we're going to have one just killer book that goes viral, and I'm not going to stop until I get at least one. That's my hope.
Do either of you know how you can actually get onto that list for the New York Times?
I've heard the rumors, Dr. Jacalyn, but if you have any insights, I'm ready to hear them.
No, I actually don't have any insights, but I thought Red and I had a conversation about it a long time ago, and I'm not sure if it's something that can you submit or you have to actually be selected.
My understanding is selected.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Red.
No, we said the exact same thing, because they're looking at the number of sales per day over a period of time. Very similar to Amazon, they're looking at number of sales plus number of reviews over a period of time. And you may be number 500 a day, #1 tonight, and back to number 500 next week. Things flow back and forth. But as you see people on the New York Times list, they're #1 week after week after week, because when they get to #1, that #1 rating keeps that interest, and the people go out and buy the book. And so there's just a lot of things there. And it's interesting because some books that are become number one, there's never a number two book. And sometimes there's a movie there. But how you got there is strange. The book, The Martian, I can't remember the name of the actor who did it, but he ended up on Mars by himself. And the book was rejected so many dozens of times. And he finally got it in front of somebody. Says, "Yeah, this looks good." It became a number one bestseller, and it became a movie, and the movie became a tremendous hit. So you can have great material, but it may not get to the right person at the right time for it to be recognized, and for that viral prompt that it just gets pushed up and up and up and up.
Fascinating.
Red, I think that's a great point. And I think what you're saying that listeners ought to pay attention to is you don't give up. So just because one area rejects you, I firmly believe you keep trying. We don't get ahead by giving up.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely. I noticed one of your other accolades is that you're also part of the business school at the University of Houston on the advisory panel.
I am. I was very lucky to get invited to that advisory panel specifically around customer experience. And it's a multi-part activity. Not only do I get to review and look at the course materials that are offered by the master's program for customer experience, but I also have been able to continually network with professionals that are in customer experience and learning customer experience. And it really is an area of business that is growing in leaps and bounds.
Anything you can share with us about the future trends of customer experience? And I'll just give just a quick example. So we're all familiar with certain cable companies, right? And we get put into that endless queue, and it seems like the customer experience really needs to be worked on. But with artificial intelligence, and I think people doing remote working, I'm just wondering, what are any trends that might be out there for the customer experience?
In my professional career, we actually look at the trends that are going on for customer experience. And it's really a two-pronged approach. Not only is it customer experience and trying to, look from the outside into your business. What do customers want to do? How do they want to interact with you? Do they want to use their mobile device? Do they want to use the website? Do they want you to employ things like machine learning and artificial intelligence to make it a more seamless experience in dealing with them? The other side of it, and it drives customer experience, is the workforce experience. Is the workforce today getting the tools they need so they can see those customer interactions, so they don't have to fall prey to can you repeat that 16-digit account number one more time for me? So it's integrating those in ways that make both sides of the conversation better, more fulfilling. And you're utilizing everyone's time in a very memorable way. So the competition by businesses, the playing field for it, I think, going forward is going to be around adopting artificial intelligence, using machine learning to help the representatives and the workforce within the business, and to help make the customers have a more satisfying interaction. Because quite honestly, the competition is fierce. If you don't like doing business with customer or business A, business B offers a similar product, and you go there in a heartbeat.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's exciting.
It is. Thank you for asking.
So your business in customer relations, customer satisfaction, I see one of the topics that I looked at when I was doing some research was you're a solutions architect. I thought that was a very interesting choice of words. How did you come about being a solution architect? Because I really like that title.
So when you go into a business, any business, and you talk to the leadership in different areas, you want to find out what is going on today, what would they like it to be like, and how do they think they can get there? So you have to look at what things are in place. What do they have at their desktops? What do they have from a FAQ perspective? What do they have from a customer for information source? What kind of technology do they have? Are they one of these customers that are everything on the prem? Are they migrating to the cloud? Are they doing a mixture of both? Those things in harmony, I think is a good term, with what they want to accomplish or their goals or how they're measured is what I try to put together and use my experience. And that's experience within my verticals that I'm talking to at the moment, or borrowing from other verticals I've interacted with. So there's many similarities between financial and healthcare and education. Even though you sense them as different verticals, the people that interact with them can be very similar. So that's how the solution architect came about. I architect what they have in place, what they need. And sometimes it's a process change. So I have to look at all of those aspects, I think, when I'm dealing with a customer to help them.
And when you have a really difficult, unyielding customer, they may possibly end up in a book or a verse.
Okay, Red, you're giving away my trade secrets, okay?
The book's like this long or this wide, right?
Okay, you're going to be in book number 11. It's just one of those things. It's just it's interesting how characters get developed and become part of whatever you're doing, and it's just I find that to be amazing, because there are several people that I have been in a previous life worked with, and I would love to be able to kill them in a book. So.
Sometimes characters have a just dessert they need to receive. There's no
they
other
really
way to
do.
put it.
So.
Oh my goodness, fascinating. We need to take a break for a commercial, and we're going to hear from some of our sponsors, and then we'll be right back on USA Global TV with the wise ones. So don't go anywhere, folks. Stay tuned.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
That place. Those people.
We need to talk to you about your time growing up in St Leonard's Children's Home. 6 of your 8 housemates committed suicide, Mr. Connolly. I'm afraid I have to tell you that another child in your care home, Liam Carroll, has also recently taken his own life.
Jason. Andrew. Liam. I need to find some people. I said get out! I've got to end them! Ah! be spending the rest of your life in prison, boy. I'm happy to tell you what you need to know.
Kapayapaan, kapayapaan, kapayapaan.
Diane Floyd Bame's A Song of Peace tells the story of a young lad named Tommy whose fervent wish for peace on earth touches the hearts of his friends and family, spreads to his community, and eventually unites the whole world around making his dream of peace a reality for everyone. Sit down with the children in your life and share Tommy's amazing story of love and hope. Sing your own song of peace and invite the children to join you. Tommy's tale is more than just a story. It's a movement, and everyone's warmly welcome to take part.
Kapayapaan, 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 kapayapaan.
You'll find A Song of Peace, along with many other wonderful learning and enriching opportunities for children of all ages, at DianeFloydBame.com.
Hello and welcome back to USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio. Our show is The Wise Ones, and a big shout out and thank you to our sponsors, Paul Connolly, who wrote his true life story in a book called Against All Odds, and now it is a major motion picture called Big Boys Don't Cry, and also to our team member Diane Floyd Bame for her book Song of Peace. I'm here with Red and Rox, and we are just rocking this show. Red, what other questions do you have for Rox?
She does author interviews. I was interviewed by her, but she made a comment at the beginning of the show today that her questions are more probative. Could you go a little bit more in detail about your author interviews? What's the whole purpose that you see when you approach an interview and you actually conduct it? What's the end result that you're trying to get?
Well, the end result is trying to get listeners or readers to engage with the author, to want to learn more about them. So for me, it has to be more about, what about you as an author makes you unique and special, other than we're all very unique human beings. So, for example, Red, you have a very fascinating background. You clearly do, between your military service and your long, wonderful relationship with your wife and everything that you do to give back to other people. I would wonder if there wasn't a pivot point somewhere in your upbringing that actually made that shift for you. And so it would be those sorts of questions that I want to explore. And it's not to pry. It's not to, open someone's closet. It's more to find that nugget of fun that makes an author, so very different than anyone else.
Well, I know from looking at your Facebook and other things there that occasionally one of the loves that you have is cooking. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
I do love cooking. I really do. One of the things that my co-author and I do, because we live in reasonably close proximity, is we actually do cook-a-thons for groups of people to come in and sample things. And so we have mastered several barbecue items that are fabulous. One of my favorites, Red, you might actually like, is Brussels sprouts on the grill that are, browned to a wonderful golden color, and they're fork tender and then topped with balsamic vinegar and a little dusting of Parmesan cheese when you serve them.
Oh my gosh. So the way you just describe them, they sound unbelievable.
Come on over, Dr. Jacalyn. You can have some.
How
Oh, I
many
love it.
people are typically at these events?
We have done from 5 people to 25 people. It just depends on the family availability. COVID has kind of put a slow on some of that, but
Yeah, I was trying to think of the last time that you did an interview with me, and it seems like COVID has a big slice of time that just doesn't compute when you're going, was it, just how long ago was that? And,
yeah.
but I've been cooking basically since about the 7th grade. I'm the oldest of 9 kids, and I'd come home from school and start the meal. And my mom was working, and the kids would be coming in with the different buses and stuff. And it wasn't, I mean, 18 pork chops or something like that was not an unusual amount for that family for that particular evening. So most of my cooking was that. But I remember one time when I was working up at the church, and we actually had a chef who was supposed to come in and help us, and we had over 220 people, and he never showed up because he had it on his calendar for the next day. So I ended up cooking for 220 people, and they loved it. But I tell you, it was a real learning experience for trying to keep everything juicy and hot and get delivered. And if I had planned on it, I don't think I would have done as well as just screaming around in the kitchen trying to get people to get. There's a lot of delegation. There's a lot of things going on. But yes, those things sometimes have a life of their own. But
Red, I want to know if you were using what you always say about portion control. And the servings were a salad dish size.
On those, it's a different animal because the people are paying. These are usually Valentine dances that we trying to get money for scholarships for kids in the church that I'm at, and so they expect to have I have 2 pieces of chicken on the plate. Not what you're talking about. There was no portion control in this regard whatsoever. The portion control was overdone because it was an appreciation for them contributing. And so it was because I think I had about 350 pieces of chicken for 220 people. And of course, there were some smaller ones, but basically that's a lot of chicken to cook.
Oh, it's a lot of chicken, and I bet you had a lot of smiling faces and great contributions for that event.
Yeah, I had a lot of people come back and say, I don't think anybody said their chicken was dry, and that was the one thing that bothered me more than anything else, because that just turns dry instantly. Dark meat not so much, but the light meat absolutely. But the other thing people love that I make is a salad, and I have an amazing kind of salad. One of these days we'll talk more about it. But anyway, we're talking about rocks today, and I know there's another topic that she loves a lot, and that's her Dobermans.
Oh, Red, thank you so much. I do. I love Dobermans. And it goes back to when I was a baby, to be honest with you. My parents had moved into suburbia after the war, and after Dad came home from Africa. And they bought a little house in suburbia, and they had my brother. And then, on down the line, they had me. Shortly before I was born, my dad got a Doberman, a big Doberman, ears cut, fierce looking as can be, and he border trained him. So we had no fences. We had a very large piece of property in suburbia, and the dog knew the perimeter. But Dobermans, unlike what people think, they're very family oriented. He was taught to be sweet. He was taught to be care for his family. And we had a fire. And I happened to be in a bassinet in a room adjacent to where the fire started. And I was sleeping in the bassinet. The dog pulled the bassinet outdoors, pulled me away from the house, and made sure that I was totally safe. And so kind of had a passion for them. So I've rescued several, I've adopted some, and they're a great animal. I love them all.
Sounds like you may have a little bit in your DNA.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, you have that close emotional bonding from way back when. That's absolutely a genetic predisposition for those kind of dogs. My parents had a Doberman Irish Setter mix, and so that was an interesting dog. They never had the tail cut, But that thing would go by and whack things, and it's a big dog. But yeah, very much, very protective, very, very protective of family.
Yep, but they're very gentle with family. I mean, they don't hurt anyone. They don't growl. They don't. And my last 3 have not had their ears cut either, because I think that's a little harsh. The tails, I think they do that all the time. I don't think they ever don't do that. But the ears, you can talk a breeder out of doing the ears.
Yeah.
Why do they cut the ears?
Supposedly, originally, and Red, you may correct me, but it was to make them look fierce, to have them stand up, and to be the argumentative kind of dog, because people don't mess with Dobermans. Most of them are fierce. They can raise their teeth, and mine do it for smiling. I can make my dog look so fierce by giving him a cookie.
I think it's aesthetic. When you have the eyes, the mouth, the teeth, and now the ears are up, it's a full face that you're looking at. And it, as Rock said, that can be a fierce thing to look at. So,
intimidating, I guess.
Yeah.
I've exhausted my questions, but always I say for the last question is, what did we not talk about that Rox wants to tell the audience?
Wow, and you didn't prep me for that either. What can I say? I think what I want to talk about is that people that like to explore different things. I believe in libraries. I believe in writing. I think we are so fortunate to have virtual libraries now, or to be able to listen to different people that are speaking, whether it's on webinar or in person, and we can keep learning things. And I like learning positive things. I try to stay to the good sides. Red, your books and some of the blogs that you do are so inspiring, and it's those sorts of directions that I'm very fond of. And Dr. Jacalyn, the programs that you offer to people, same thing. They're very positive. They're helping to support creatives. And I'd like to be considered creative, as well as a hardworking person that just wants to be part of a really good human existence. It doesn't last long enough.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And we are all about positive energy and leading with your heart. And obviously, that's the kind of person you are.
I hope so. Thank you.
So, Dr. Jacalyn, Rox is my second interview person that we brought onto the show. I think we're still continuing the high level of quality that we saw last week with Gail. So I'm super pleased. You have just fantastic day today there, Rox. Appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so lucky and honored to be here. Red, thank you for inviting me. And Dr. Jacalyn, it's an honor to be in the same boat with you, crossing the bridge over this river.
Are we rowing, or how are we getting? Is it electric?
Oh no, the river is gliding us along. We don't need to do a thing, but just enjoy it.
It sounds beautiful. I always wanted to go on a river cruise, but I've never actually done that. So I'm just going to imagine that's what we're doing right now. A very small boat, but I love everything that you're doing, and I love the artificial intelligence component of it too. I'm really fascinated with technology, as I shared. I've got a background in technology too, but it's always changing, and it's giving us so much more opportunity. And again, I think it's all just energy, and how do we channel that energy? And you're doing a fabulous job of that, Roz.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you saying that. I think we just have to protect ourselves. We do have to protect ourselves, because technology is not the end all be all.
Do you want to expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, for a little small taste. I think that we need to control technology. I think that we need to allow it or not allow it to make our decisions. There's been a lot of controversy with some of the big social media platforms, and whether they make the decisions or whether we as the consumers make the decisions. I think we have to stay in charge.
I like that. Be empowered, be careful, just be aware of what's going on.
Exactly.
And be responsible.
Yes, that's good too. Rox, we have your banner up here, but for people who are listening on Business Talk Radio and they can't read the banner, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you, and who would you like to contact you?
People that are authors, people that want to have perhaps a guest interview that are somewhere in the industry, like narrators or indie publishers, indie magazines, that would be great. They can all reach out to me at roxb@roxburkey.com, or go to my website, roxburkey.com, and there's a click there to contact me. I do respond usually within a day. And unless I'm on travel, and then it might be a little longer. And just people who want to, bounce a few questions. Sometimes I may have a contact that I can help them with. I'm also on LinkedIn, and I do post some things out on LinkedIn now and again.
And
All right.
Burkey is Burkey. A number of different ways to spell it, but it's Burkey.
It is Red. It's like turkey with a B. Yep.
It's a great way to remember it. Well, thank you so much, Rox, for being here. You're a fabulous guest, and you're welcome to come back on any of our shows.
Thank you both again, Dr. Jacalyn. An honor to meet you face to face, as it were. Thank you.
Thank you. Back at you.
Red, we'll talk soon.
I look forward to it. I really do.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well done. I really love her. She's so authentic and down to earth, and yet so accomplished and profound in so many ways. So I'm glad that you brought her here, Red. And for people who would like to get in contact with you, how can they do that?
My website is redolaflin.com, RedOlaughlin, redolaflin.com. I can also be reached by my email address, red@redolaflin.com, or red.olaflin@gmail.com. Both of those are places that I check quite often.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you for your time earlier today and for doing the show.
I always look forward to working with you, Dr. Jacalyn.
Thank you. I feel the same about you. Have a great rest of your week.
I shall do my best. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone, for watching, whether you watch us on the live or on the replay. I'm just so grateful. I say this all the time, but I can't even believe that I was in the corporate world for 20 some years, and now I'm doing this, and I get to hear from people all over the world. They share their stories, and it is such a joy and a privilege to be able to help people get their word out. And in a lot of cases, people have kept their story deep within, and once they get it out, they start feeling better, and all kinds of wonderful things happen. So if you have a story to tell and you'd like to come on our platform, please go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com, and all of our shows are there. Special note, we're coming up with some new shows for February and some new co-hosts as well. So we are so excited to just continue to build. There are many places you can watch our shows. We're on 17 platforms, whether it's live or on as a podcast, but we're trying to take everyone, not trying, that trying means it's not going to happen. We are taking everyone, moving them over to 3 platforms. So I'd love it if you would go subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV. And we put all the shows in playlists. So this one will be under the playlist, The Wise Ones. And that's all. That's all we have for today. This is our last show for today. We have shows 5 days a week. So we will be back tomorrow. And if you have a topic that you would like us to look into, please feel free to email me. You can also go to my personal website, which is drjacalyn.com. I am a certified life, career, and holistic coach. I'm also a certified meditation instructor and a certified yoga instructor. So you can sign up for my courses there. And I also am a somebody who is an advocate for inner peace and world peace, and I teach people how to listen. And the courses are called The Power of Listening. You can sign up for them on Eventbrite, or you can go to my website, drjacalyn.com. And once you take the first 2 courses, The Power of Listening, you get a certification, and you can come on our TV show, The Listening Mentor. And we do live role plays, and we talk about all kinds of scenarios that involve listening, and whether we're being an effective listener or whether we're listening and judging, listening and trying to come up with a solution. So we want to help people learn how to create a space that is safe for other people to be able to share their story. All right, that's all I have for today. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Red. Thank you, Rox. And thank you to you, our loyal audience. We'll see you again tomorrow.